Boom, we are pre-recorded and live today, ladies and gentlemen. Bitcoin jumped over the creek and went for a massive $1,000 run. Now, we're going to be taking a quick look at Fetch and gold and silver at the end of this as well, so keep an eye on that. But for now, let's just dive right in and take a look at Bitcoin. I'm going to press a button here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is really exciting, guys. Obviously, the tech sector is exploding. They're just going to keep printing money. It's pretty obvious now. There's no choice. And there's a reason for it. Human intellectual and network capital is worth more than money. So if people die, their death is worth more than any money that you could ever print, right? Because we don't know who they are, who their friends are, what relationships that they had built up to be a part of this world that we live in. So they're just going to keep printing money because we can't replace people capital, but we can easily just print more physical capital, and that should keep things running. Now, in the long term, obviously, this yields into hyperinflation, but it can probably go a lot longer than we thought, and probably a lot longer than we think. So I want to go over this too for all the private bear groups. So everyone that's in our private group, or if you're not in our private group, go ahead, join. Links are down below. Free refund if you're not happy. But anyways, this besides the point. I had been watching this Wyckoff. Now, I thought this was actually going to turn into a distribution chart. So back here in in the June 10th, we went short at around 10,000 just at around 9,900. And I re-entered my long positions at 90.90. Those of you will remember in the bear den, I was like, oh, I'm re-entering at 90.90 because I'm not sure what this pattern is yet. And that's one of the fun things about technical analysis is it takes years, maybe a lifetime, to get good at it and really kind of get a good bearing and grasp on how everything works. So we've been inside of this accumulation range for quite some time. And then this very noticeable change of character happened as soon as we broke above the 21-day moving average. And I also, at that same time, started to realize that there's something that I had not yet taken into my teaching. And this is the Wyckoff reaccumulation review. Now, this is actually a very uncommon understanding for the people that even study Wyckoff. So much so that when I made a Wyckoff post about the reaccumulation, some guy on Twitter was like, oh, you mean just accumulation? I'm like, no, actually reaccumulation is a very different setup than accumulation. So noticing these things are different, right? Especially if you're in the start of a bull market. Looking for these types of breakdowns is important. So here we saw this creek, which is basically the jump over your moving averages. As soon as I saw that happen, I opened up a bunch more longs on Bitcoin at around 9,400 and 9,500 here. That was an important moment for me, not only because that trade did well, but it helped keep the portfolio in balance. So I want to go over this here, and then also to remember that, guys, this is called, you're looking at what's known as a fractal type of trade. So a fractal is essentially something that you can zoom in and out of. This is known as scale invariance. It's the same reason why your eyes kind of look like the universe and your lungs kind of look like the trees and the leaves, is because nature actually has a predominant set of variables that it breaks over top of. So a big question right now, and this is why I'm bullish on Bitcoin again here for another swing up. So make sure all your stop losses are set. You know, I'll get to Fetch and some of the other trades because Fetch is up over 160% since our entry, and it doesn't give a shit what Bitcoin did. So it's important to keep in mind. But here, see this? This looks like that creek to me again, and we just broke above the creek on the 15-minute. So on the daily, when we're looking at Bitcoin, we had this much larger reaccumulation area that we were looking at here, right? But because of scale invariance, I can look down at the 15-minute and I can find this similar pattern taking shape. We see the test, we see this run below the creek, and we see a break above the creek now. So this is a really big important part, and I wanted to get this video out before this breaks up, because as soon as we break again past the LPS in this 11,200 area, which you can see very clearly, this LPS, the last point of supply, and the sign of strength, numbers 10 and 11 for our breakout after we get above the creek here. It's a very, very important moment to watch on Bitcoin, because if you want to learn how to trade, these are some of the indicators and the styles that are going to give you that clear sentiment evaluation. So I am pretty confident now that we've broken above the creek in this reaccumulation pattern on the 15-minute, the Bitcoin's probably going to go up to test maybe 12,500. Now, this is going to become a really, really important area to keep an eye on, not just because we're big fans of the finance sector, but again, let's look at Fetch and make a comparison here. So one of the downsides is, okay, well, look, Bitcoin is a great example. It is the decentralized finance, right? It is DeFi. All this new hype word around decentralized finance, well, that was Bitcoin. That's Bitcoin. In fact, that's this entire sector, right? So when we had the ICO boom of 2017, that was decentralized finance. For the first time ever, you could become a seed investor from anywhere in the world in these random companies. Now, albeit a lot of them failed, it doesn't really matter. It's besides the point. We're looking at the growth of a new financial and technological sector. Fetch happens to be one of those ones that I'm a huge fan of. We made our entries here back in June at around 250 Satoshis. And since then, we've seen a 150% gain in 68 days. This has been the golden boy of my trading portfolio this last month. And I'm really, really excited about Fetch in the long term. And as you can see here, this is the thing about making a good trade is even though Bitcoin's been going up, this has barely affected Fetch at all. Whereas with XLM, a trade that we made our first entries here at 740. I took my first profits here, and I'm just at the top of the 50-day moving average through this ascending channel. This is actually very, very common. And this is one of the things that we have to look at when we're using the Wyckoff analysis is, okay, look, here you have a beautiful ascending channel through the accumulation area. Now, this is important for a few reasons, but I want to show you a few others that have gone through. Just very briefly, Matic is going through that area as well, although it tested its bottom lower of the POC. Waves is actually on that sentiment now as well too. And Waves is just actually testing the bottom of this ascending channel. So these are really, really powerful moves, and they don't really care what Bitcoin does, but they do often come back to test the top of the channel. Just as we saw with XLM here, it came back and tested the top of this channel, and more importantly, the 50-day moving average and the top of the box here. This is known as like a kind of a retest before we see a much larger move. So I'm still in the majority of my position from Stellar, aside from what I had closed out at this 30% range here. We missed my second profit target, which is this blue line here at 1160. Oh well, I think we're going to hit it again later on down the line. So be aware that this venture capital space, DeFi, this whole goddamn thing is DeFi, by the way. Like, don't get caught up in the hype word. This is all decentralized finance. The fact that I can buy a company like Fetch, or almost anyone can from around the world with the click of a button, this is the ability to get into early seed stage venture capital. This is unheard of. And at a 1.5x already, I actually believe Fetch has the ability to go much, much higher. So I'm leaving the rest of my Fetch trade on the table to play because I think it could go 5, 10, maybe even 20x over the next few years. Could be worth nothing, but this is the game of asymmetrical betting. Could be worth nothing, could be worth 100x. So just limit your investment size and you'll be able to play the game really, really well. So I want to take a last little look at gold and silver because these are the old hard money boys who are giving us a pretty clear indicator that we are going to just again see more and more money printing. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned the fact, and if you don't agree with this, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. It's easier to print money and less detrimental to the system as a whole than to just let people die. Right. And that's the problem is people still really haven't taken into effect how bad this pandemic is. It's not just about fatality. It's about the fact that we're seeing 50 to 60% of the people who even have mild symptoms now have permanent lung damage, permanent heart damage, kidney damage. That's a big negativo for playing the game. And that whole area of people is going to be less likely to be able to go back to work or work properly. Or again, on an even more detrimental state, if they do die, how do we get that capital back? All the friends that they have, all the things that they were building, all the random stuff they knew about life is worth more than money. Money is just a paper. We can print it. Its only value is assigned to our economy by the fact that we all agree that it's worth something. It's not. It's just paper. There's no real value to it. We're all having mass hallucinating that these things have value. As a matter of fact, I've made the argument many times before that I think anything outside of survival is a privilege of value. If you're not focusing on just your everyday survival, it's a pretty privileged situation you're in. So here I actually thought we were going to be seeing a cup and handle on gold, but it seems like it just wants to break out further. So here we see since 2010 and into 2020, a 10-year process to break out into new all-time highs for gold. This is a pretty big deal, and it signals to me that the old hard money boys are seeing the same thing that we're seeing as well, which is just they're just going to keep printing. So get yourself into physical assets. And even though people don't understand this yet, Bitcoin is a physical asset. I can store it in my brain. That makes it a physical asset. People have yet to necessarily randomly be able to tangentially accept that, but Bitcoin represents hard money, and it's better hard money than gold. We could find an asteroid that's just full of silver and gold and absolutely destroy this so-called scarcity we have. Unimportant though, all we're trying to do here is look at what the old market money boys are seeing. Now here we started to see this falling wedge in silver as well, and we saw a big breakout. Jesus, look at this, 35% in silver. This is a huge move. This is the biggest move we've seen in silver since back in 2009 through 2012 on the downside. So this again is indication to me that everyone sees the same thing. They're just going to keep printing money. So get yourself some assets, because the asset prices will continue to go up. That's what hyperinflation looks like. Asset prices go up, dollar goes down. Now there's been some speculation, and I will end this episode off today by looking at the US dollar chart. Look guys, the dollar has been declining in value for quite some time. Here we see back from the 1960s, 1968, we saw this massive spike up into the 80s, and then a consistent kind of downtrend here for the last, well, pretty much forever. To the point where we could make an argument that this is kind of in a descending channel. I actually think we're going to see a breakout of this. What people don't recognize is that the US dollar is still the strongest, most trusted currency on the planet. So the US dollar is likely going to pump. Yeah, that's right. Even though we're at lows right now, I bet you we come down and then we break out. As soon as we get out past 102, we'll probably see a spike, maybe even up into the 115 mark for the dollar. Now, this conjecture is based off the idea that I think as other countries start to fail, they're going to look to move to the dollar, a more stable currency, and that's going to drive the prices of the dollar up. I believe what we're seeing this drop right now is not indicative of the long-term move down to the 67 mark. I actually think it's going to go up as other currencies start to fail, and those currencies run into the dollar as a form of stable coin assessment. Anyways, give us a thumbs up if you like this content. Join the private group if you want to become a better trader, a better investor. If you like what we do, we've got a fantastic community of people there that are always helping each other grow and learn. So many different traders, so many different investors. And that's the real value of the group, is it's not just me. It's a bunch of other people who have money and time and skin in the game in this sector, this budding venture capital space that I'm so excited to be a part of. Now, I want to end this off by saying I love mushrooms. This is a reishi mushroom that I found today. So I'm going to kind of end the episode with this. But ladies and gentlemen, I've been going out into nature and I've been finding these medicines, these ancient teachers that we have. This is reishi. This is literally means the life of plant of immortality, or the mushroom of immortality. And here I have a beautiful turkey tail. These are both polypore mushrooms. You can find them very easily by going out into your forest. They stimulate your immune system both by regulating things like interleukin-6, the immunomodulator properties to quell cytokine storms. I believe this is the future of medicine alongside sound. If you can and you want to, making this relationship with nature is probably one of the most valuable things you can do right now. I made a bunch of money the last little while, but I can tell you I'm much more excited about my relationship with going out and finding these little plants and turning them into my daily medicines, making tea out of them, I've got a beautiful house here in Costa Rica. I don't share it with you guys as possible. I've got a garden and a greenhouse. I've got solar panels. I've got a nice little creek that runs through the property, and I'll just walk out into the jungle and I can find these ancient medicines. Anyways, I'll leave it off at that. Steve with the Arcane Bear. Thank you guys all for joining us. I hope you're enjoying the start of what looks like is going to be our bull run. Again, remember, I have sentiments that take us to hundreds of thousands of dollars into Bitcoin, but it's probably about 10 years to get there and a pretty rough ride. Work on food scarcity. Plant a garden. Make an acquaintance with nature outside around you. Go learn about these medicines that we have right in our backyard. The word pharmacopoeia has farm in it for a reason. Anyways, I want to end it with that. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I really, really appreciate it. I love you, Private Bear family, as well. We'll see you guys in the private Telegram group. We'll have the newsletter come out in a day or two, but it's just been a wild ride. We've been charting as many of these, getting them into where it's going to be most successful with the least amount of exposure time for the maximum amount of gains. Anyways, thank you. I love you. And see you guys again soon. Hold on. Wait. Can I just, this like really, really, really slowly? Oh no.